Welcome to this week's video, guys. It's a good one. It is one that I have had a lot of requests for, and that is an in-depth tutorial on how I make my luxurious macadamia nut oil body butter, how you can do the same at home, and kind of like a tips and tricks, because trust me, it is really not as easy as I thought it was going to be, and I still, after all this time, struggle with it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. So just in case we haven't met before, my name is Sarah and I own lvfinesoaps.com, a handmade luxury bath and body product slash candle business based in Maryland. And like I said, this video is just one that I get asked for a lot. I do a lot of short form content like piping body butters and mixing body butters and that kind of thing. And it has prompted a lot of people to ask me to do a tutorial on it and share kind of my like advice and my tips. So that's kind of what today is. So hopefully you enjoy. We are going to be using the pomegranate cider fragrance oil from Simbi Fine Fragrance. This is a newer holiday fragrance for them, but I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't smell holiday. I just smell like something really fresh that I would love to wear on my skin. My first piece of advice is to really consider the fragrance that you're putting in your body butter. These are products, especially if you follow my formulation, the fragrance usually lasts 10 plus hours. Most of them last 12 hours. And I'm not exaggerating. Like it is A plus. It is very high quality. So when you're shopping around for fragrances, maybe a good idea is to put a little bit on a fragrance blotter and then kind of carry it around with you for the day and see if you enjoy smelling like that. However, you can get a feel for spending your day with that fragrance. Again, I'm seeing like, hot marshmallow, and actually that one does sound kind of good. So that example. But when you're shopping for your fragrance oil, just make sure you're picking one that your customers might actually want to wear for 12 plus hours on their skin. So we have this pomegranate cider. When all else fails, go fruit. I have found that fruity fragrances work very well in seasonal products, especially when that fruit is in season. So over the summer, I had the juicy pineapple. It was phenomenal. I got so many compliments on it. I have one single jar left. So if you hurry, you might be able to get it on my website. Don't forget to use code subscriber for 20% off if you decide to purchase. But anyway, that's besides the point. So I think a fresh in season of fruit is a really good place to start if you're having a hard time. Now, next up is going to be our base oils. I use the double broiler method to melt my shea butter and macadamia nut oil. Here's my second caveat. If you yourself are allergic to nuts or have a lot of customers that are allergic to nuts, then you might want to replace the macadamia nut oil for something like a sunflower oil or something that is more allergy friendly. Okay. I make sure before someone even touches the body butter, before I offer them a sample, before anything at all, I make sure that they are fully aware that it is a macadamia nut oil product. That does cause me to lose out on some sales because I do have some customers and some friends that have, peanut, that have nut allergies, and that I understand, and that's going to be the case if you decide to go with these oils. So consider allergies. Tip number 2, consider allergies when working with macadamia nut oil or any nut oil. I start by putting my blocks of refined shea butter into my stainless steel. I use the same mixing bowl that I'm going to put and attach to my KitchenAid mixer. It's less cleanup. I put the shea butter in first because it's solid. Then I pour in my liquid macadamia nut oil, melt both of them together, and then I pop it in the freezer. So, and now I'm going to turn the camera around and show you what we look like now that we're frozen, and just keep working. When determining the proper time to start mixing your body butter, a good rule of thumb is when you turn it to the side, it's not dripping, it's not running anywhere, but when you touch the middle, it's still kind of soft. I don't know if you can see that, but I have made some indentations in the top with my finger, which is exactly what we want. If it's too hard or too solid, don't panic. All you need to do is sit it in a warm bath for a minute or two until you reach this consistency here. And if it's not solid enough, then all you need to do is pop it back in the freezer. It can always be fixed. So take your time, don't panic. Definitely need to make sure you do is scrape down the sides and at the bottom of the bowl while you're working. If you are not doing that, then some of your shea butter and macadamia nut oil or whatever oil you choose will stay down there and they will not combine with your other ingredients. The more you touch the areas that are on the outside of your bowl, the more heat is transferred to the bowl and therefore transferred to your macadamia nut oil and shea butter mixture. So you want to make sure when you're working with body butter that you keep your hands up at the top. That way it's not melting down any of your ingredients inside the bowl. We do not want them to melt. So the least contact they have with your hands, the better. Is on the powder that you add to your body butter. So I add Arrowroot powder and I use a pretty high percentage. The more powder you add to your body butter blend, the more mattifying and velvety feeling it will be, okay? So our first step is like a glossy finish. Then you have a demi matte, which would be like a little bit of powder added to it. And you have a velvety finish, which would be a little bit more. And then the maximum level would be it adds a mattifying property to your body butter. So let's go ahead and scrape this off. Just give it a good blend, make sure everything's in. Okay, now For piping purposes, you really want your body butter to be this kind of like icing consistency. It is the perfect consistency for piping. So if it looks like this, you're in a good spot. If it falls off of your spoon, it's not quite ready, okay? So now is actually a really great like natural break when you're making your body butter. If you need to stop for any reason right before you start piping is a great, or right before you fill your piping bag is a really great time for that. So again, as long as you're not touching anything, once you start touching the body butter with your hands to slide it down in the piping bag, whatever the case is, it is going to start to melt. So just be mindful of that. In this video, I used the paddle attachment for my KitchenAid mixer, but I do normally use like the whisk one. I just couldn't seem to find it, and I obviously wanted to make this body butter. So you can go with either the paddle or the whisk, both work fine, okay? And just a quick note on adding colorant. I don't add colorant to all of my body butters. Like normally, let's see, what do I have over here? I'm gonna take this off. So here's an example of a finished body butter of mine. Here's what it looks like in the jar. So it's always white, but then there's like a little swipe of color on the side, okay? So that is something that I do with all of my body butters. They all have a color on the side. If you want to color your entire body butter, then you totally can. The only thing you would need to do differently before you add any powder that you're going to add is add the mica powder to your oil mixture before adding the arrowroot powder to ensure that it like disperses evenly among all of the butter. Okay, I'm gonna show you how I set up for my TikToks and like my piping videos. Then I'm going to do it and we'll close this bad boy out. Let's do it. And there they are, piped and everything. So that's going to be it for this video today. Just some final thoughts. Every single batch of body butter that you make is going to be just a little bit different depending on the conditions, the temperature outside, the temperature of the room, how hot your hands are, the gloves you've been wearing, are you sweaty? Whatever. There's tons of different things that can affect your body butter. So just be mindful of the way that you're touching it and kind of how you're storing it and those kinds of things, because you don't want them to melt in the jar. They turn very gritty and kind of weird. So that's it for me. Hopefully you enjoyed watching this tips and tricks and in-depth tutorial on making body butter. If you had a question that I did not answer, please leave it in the comments below. I would love to chat. And otherwise, you can watch this video here if you are interested in seeing me make the cranberry rose water holiday bar soap, or this video here if you are interested in seeing more of my studio than just this wall with replica surfaces on it. And I'll see you next week.